Hello. We're totally live. We're happy. This is happening, Nicholas. It is
Yay.
real. It is finally. Yes, I'm excited. I guess I should say I'm Devin, and who are you? I just said your name, but who are you?
My name is Nicholas, and welcome everyone who's joining us today.
Very exciting. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Like not just like do a show with you because I just adore you, but to like be able to do live streaming on YouTube in this particular way is really exciting. And this is my first time doing it. So you're kind of going along this journey with me. I don't know if I told you that or not, but we're totally Thelma and Louising in this.
I don't mind being your guinea pig. I've never done this either. I mean, I've been a guest, but it's a little different being at the helm with you.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I have to admit to be doing this, mostly because, to be quite honest with you, um, I think that a lot of people take crystals like a little too seriously in a way that they just need to like back up, in my opinion. And it is my goal as a crystal person to be like, whoa, it'll be okay. Let's just calm back down. Whereas you do tend to be more, you're very serious. Like you're a serious person. You've serious, like very earthy energy. I am not. I am my Mr. Sagittarius with lots of water. So I guess we should just start off with like the basic boring stuff. We'll just make it quick. Like, so let's talk about your origin story, Nicholas. So how did you get into crystals and why are you writing books and now have a show on YouTube?
Well, here's the shortest I can give you. Hi, my name is Nicholas, and I really like rocks. But that's probably not very satisfying. So, um, a little deeper than that. I've been collecting rocks since I was a kid. I picked up bits of stone everywhere I went, and my grandfather, observing this, gave me my first piece of quartz, and the rest is kind of history. Like this inert part of the landscape, which I already loved for no discernible reason, was suddenly transfigured into something luminous. The kind of reassuring geometry of it was so enchanting. The way it interacted with light mesmerized me. It was like I was holding something straight out of a fairy tale, but it was real and concrete and tangible. And that just made magic all the more real to me. So I've always been kind of a science nerd. If someone doesn't already know that, it will definitely be apparent by the end of the show. And I found in crystals like the perfect mix of science and spirituality. I could explore the mythology, the history, the legend, and the lore, as well as things like the natural history and the geology and the crystallography and the linguistics of their names and all of this other fun stuff. And over the years, I just kind of kept doing that. I got to work in the science field as preparator for a mineral collection in an Earth Science Museum when I was young. And I eventually decided to change my major from music to earth science. That's a whole other story. But here we are, many years later, almost 30 years of collecting later. I'm still chipping away at it, still learning more stuff every week, still writing, still teaching. It's my greatest love.
It is. It is. Yeah, I kind of same. So I love rocks in a way that I know most people don't. It's kind of, but it's more like in a dragon kind of way. Like I went to hoard all of them and I went to keep all of them for myself. And one day I'll do a tour and we'll show all the things because you and I both have, I mean, not to sound like, but you and I both have quite impressive collections. So we'll have to like totally do a collection tour one day. But yeah, so I started collecting when I was a kid. My parents went on a trip and then brought me home this little bag of stones, and I just fell in love with. Like I held peridot for the first time, and it was green and it was cool and it looked science fictiony, and I was totally there for it. So I just fell in love with stones, and I like science. I love science, but I like it more from like a science fiction kind of physics and that kind of side. That stuff I really get into. Whereas mineralogy, geology, those are things that I learned at like a super basic level, like most everybody else did, right? In school and stuff like that. And then I don't know, I guess I watched one too many episodes of the Magic School Bus, and I really got into geology once I hit like adulthood. As much as I could. I grew up in Ohio, so lots of really cool geology stuff going on, like everywhere in Ohio. We have a lot of really, really, really cool natural things that happen there. And so, anyway, blah, blah, blah. Just connected to the land and connected to the minerals that were natural to the area. And I just found this magic that I couldn't let go of. So I have never looked back. I've had various different relationships with minerals, as a collector and then as a seller, and a wholesaler, and doing all of that stuff. So I don't know. I also have a garage full of stones, because I used to own a crystal shop. And so all of that inventory is now, literally sitting on top of it right now, which just furthers my I'm a dragon thing. So that's that. So that's basically it. So I love stones. I wrote a book. I write a bunch of books, but I just wrote a book, and released a book called Crystal Magic for the Modern Witch, which is basically all of my crystal stuff, all of the little things that I had worked on and developed over the years in my practice. I put those together. But I wouldn't say that I am a crystal person in the way that you are. Like when I was writing the book, everybody should know this. I was like texting Nicholas, what the is this about? What is this thing? Da, 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 explain this to me. And you were my go-to. You were the guy that I knew would explain the science thing and the stuff that helped me put the bigger pieces together. So I appreciate and love you for that. Thank you very much. But I definitely would say you're like the crystal dude. Like you're the crystal dude. Like in our generation of authors, you are the crystal dude. And so it is first of all, it's a pleasure to be working with you in this way, because I know every time we work together, I learn something. Like we just taught this really cool, 4-week long intensive. And I learned, like, every time we sat down to talk, I was learning things and making notes. And so I have a feeling that people watching the show are going to have a similar kind of experience. My job, as far as I'm concerned with this show, is to just try to be funny, to lighten crystals up, so people don't take them so seriously, because there's things that you should take seriously, right? Of course. But then there's things that's just like, whoa. So I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna try to be the bad cop, and we're gonna see if you can be, or the funny guy. And I think our fans and our readers and people would say you are the straight man, even though, you know, but yeah. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, I look forward to it. There aren't a lot of people who've ever referred to me as a straight man. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a whole, we're just gonna stop there. We're gonna drop that, and we're gonna move. Let me ask you, Nicholas. So you just spent a couple of days in Tucson, which happens to be the world's largest crystal show, and it was a absolute favorite destination of mine every year when I have the shop. And I want to go back, but it's a lot of work to get there, as you know. So let me ask you, what was Tucson like this year? We'll just start there.
well, it's my first time going in 8 years. So, and the last time I went, I was actually working for 13 days straight. I saw very little of the rest of the city. And if anyone has been to Tucson, you know that it's not one event, but it's like dozens and dozens of events that take over every available public space and spill out onto the streets. So it's not just this one singular place you go. You have to like meander through the entire town, the entire city, to get to see all of what Tucson has to offer. So this year I got to do more of that. And thanks to some bad weather, I got to stay an extra day, which afforded me the chance to do like the fine minerals, which I otherwise hadn't had a chance to see. And I'm really glad because I mean, I love me some fine minerals. It's just really nice to be able to hold your favorite mineral species, but to hold on to a specimen with so many zeros attached that you know you're never going to have one like this. So I made sure to do that, and it was great. I liked seeing some trends. I liked seeing some of the new stuff coming out. I also found it really informative to look for some new fakes or new treatments and some other new things that we're probably going to see a lot of over the next months or years. So I've kind of put some mental tabs on it. But really, the best part of it for me was the people. I went there to launch my new book. Some of you might already know that I have a book officially releasing in March, but I went to sign copies for the first time ever. My first full day in Tucson. It's Crystal Basics Pocket Encyclopedia. My copies actually arrived here in Orlando after I left for Tucson. So it took the whole week I was out there until I got home to finally get my hands on my personal copies. And that was really great. So I got to meet lots of readers and retailers who stocked up for their stores, and to meet some of my favorite humans that I just don't get to see ordinarily. So although the rocks were great, I think the people were the most memorable part. That being said, I did get one or two things that I brought home with me. So I'm pleased with what I did in Tucson overall.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the most expensive thing you saw? if you can even remember that. Like,
In the fine mineral world, they stop putting prices on after they reach a certain threshold. So I
mhm,
can't tell you what the most valuable thing was that wasn't labeled, because you have to ask. And if you have to
right.
ask, you
You
probably
don't
can't
want to
afford
ask.
it.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so like the highest price tags that I saw probably went up to about $125,000 US.
Mm,
Things like this gorgeous Gwindel quartz, which means like twisted quartz,
mhm,
from the Alps. These are really, really famous specimens. I took pictures of almost every Gwindel I could. I got to hold several. I almost bought one that was not nearly as much money, but it was more than I wanted to spend after already having spent as much as I did.
mhm,
So, I've got one or two regrets of things that I let pass through my fingers, but
mhm.
that's part of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks when you're there because it's totally like, well, if you get this thing, you can't get these other things, and then you have to play that game of, and then if you don't act now, it won't be there tomorrow or in an hour, and yeah, it's a lot. It's a really fun event. I think if you're into crystals, you should try to go to Tucson. I mean, if anything, just so you can amp up your collection without having to spend the type of money that you're going to spend elsewhere. And I have some of the best like pictures from like in my out of all of my photography collection of stones. It's loaded with a lot of stuff that I got from Tucson, and I was able to, and because the people are really nice too, so like you can go in, and if you approach them the right way, a lot of the times they'll take out their stuff and they'll let you photograph it, and they want their stuff to be seen, and they want you to have their business underneath the photo and stuff like that. So you tend to get just some of the best examples. Like, I mean, I've been to the Smithsonian and Washington, D.C. I've seen the collection there. There's some really incredible stuff. I've been to, there was a big crystal museum in Montana I went to. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure somebody will comment on it. Seen huge, amazing collections, but you don't see anything like you do in Tucson. There's just these roaming band of collections, and they all just kind of end up in the same place, and then you can go and see. And yeah, talk about some of the expensive stuff. I saw it was like $300,000 slab. It was huge, and it was a petrified wood, but it had iron marbling through it. Gorgeous, like beautiful, and it was a tabletop, and it was $300,000, and it was polished up, and it was the most beautiful. I think of a video of me like walking past it just because it was so long. But it was $300,000. I was like, "There's like let's take a picture." Like that's all you can do. But that's yeah. So I love Tucson for those experiences because you're never gonna see. Of course, and the geodes you can sit in, or the bathtubs made out of rose quartz, stuff like that. That's just like some bougie person is totally like, I'm gonna get a rose quartz bathtub. And yeah. So did you see anything? So let's talk about the trends though, right? Because that's what I'm really interested in. So what do you think are going to be the trends coming into this year and probably 2 years? Because usually it's like crystal trends are a couple years old, or they last for a couple years. So what's the new stuff coming in?
Um, you know, it's hard to know what is a small batch of something that I saw and fell in love with versus what's going to be a big batch until we start to see more people bring it out. But definitely lots more Zambian citrine. Prices are staying pretty stable on that, which I'm very excited about. I'm seeing a bit more European minerals on the market, maybe not so much as what we'll see in like your average mineral, like metaphysical kind of retailer, but definitely some other great things that are coming out. I spent a lot of time looking at like European classic minerals, lots of beautiful barites, and sometimes with chalcopyrite and galena coming out of Poland right now, these beautiful dendritic, they almost look organic kinds of formations of them. And that was one of the materials I was really happy with. Tons of gem quality rhodonite. Rhodonite happens to be one of my favorite mineral species, so that was something I paid a lot of attention to. Really, really good quantities and good quality for fair prices of Himalayan quartz. And coming out of like, cottage style mining. So not like big industrial things, because you can't do that in the Himalayas. You can't bring industry up to that elevation and mine at that kind of quantity. So I was really excited to see some very fine Himalayan quartz for prices that are relatively stable. I mean, some retailers have certainly allowed things to expand price-wise quite a lot, and some others are doing the best to kind of fight that. But as we see the cost of shipping, the cost of flying into Tucson, the cost of renting spaces in Tucson, the cost of freight from country to country, the cost of lapidary work, all of this goes up, just like the cost of everything does. So, one trend I think we should all prepare for is the cost of minerals to steadily rise as a reflection of that.
Yeah,
So
that's something I've been watching and I've been keeping my eye on and seeing the prices kind of tick up. And it's weird because some things that were super expensive a couple years ago, there's plenty of because the market got saturated with it, prices fall. But then you get the kind of opposite of that where things that used to be really easy to find, pretty inexpensive, are now just skyrocketing. And it's rhodonite's one of them. That I've noticed prices going up. Shungite's never been inexpensive, but it's getting more so. And my question really is, because if you, which you'll know this, and hopefully people who are watching the show as well, but a lot of mines are controlled by oligarchs, and with the war and the stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine right now, I'm particularly interested in the impact that that's having on the crystal market, because so many things come from Russia, and get processed in Russia, or vice versa, or they're shipped to Australia, or from Russia back and forth. So there's a lot of that goes on, and that's something that I'm really curious as to see, like, because Moldavite still, I mean, like the mine for Moldavite kind of dried up a little bit, and it wasn't that it was necessarily dried up. It's just they quit releasing it, so they were holding on to it. Price of Moldavite went way up, and they were just kind of trickling it out. And I remember, like, we went through 2 or 3 years we could not find Moldavite. Like, when we had a really good connection to the mine and everything, could not find Moldavite. So it's one of those things where now you can find Moldavite everywhere because other people have opened up other mines and things like that. But it's a tricky thing, watching the numbers go up and down and trying to figure out when's a good time to invest, right? You want that piece of Moldavite. Do you buy now? Do you wait a couple of years? Because I'm all about waiting, right? I mean, if it's the time will come, don't break your bank on a crystal. But when do you do that with prices being what they are? So what do you think, just judging by what you saw, what do you think are going to be the things to definitely, like, maybe you should go ahead and take care of that now instead of waiting a year or two? What do you think those pieces are?
I mean, it's so volatile and it's hard to predict those trends. And that's not the kind of data I was collecting while I was out there. But my general advice that I'll give anyone who wants to, you know, get some advice on this is there's a little exercise I play. If I'm unsure of something, I I love it, but I maybe don't love spending that amount of money, or I didn't budget for it this month, or whatever it might be. I put the crystal down, I close my eyes, and I imagine how it's going to feel if I walk away and come back tomorrow to buy it. So, like, what happens? You wait overnight, you come back. What do you do if it is sold? How are you going to respond if it's not there, if you come back to get it tomorrow? And if you're going to lose sleep over that, if it's going to keep you up at night, as long as you're not causing any sort of personal danger by investing in that rock, just do it. It's never the rocks I've bought that I've regretted, like never once. It's always the ones that I didn't. And I have a few of those pieces that got away, and I'll never be able to replace them. So, Ahoite is one of those things that when, from Messina, South Africa, it was never very plentiful, but when it was younger on the market and you could get it, it was great. I'm starting to see more pieces hit the market, not because they're actively mining, but because people are selling. People are cutting apart large specimens into smaller ones to make them more affordable. And so there was kind of a pleasant trickle of that into Tucson. So if someone were really looking for Ahoite and quartz, you're going to spend a pretty penny, but 5 years from now, you're going to spend a lot more. So I think it's just a matter of what you love. So my advice has always been buy what you love. Unless you are investing money in minerals, like people buy art or other things as financial investments, that's a whole other route to take. But if you love something and it's within your means, go for it, and don't worry too much about when the smart time to invest is.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Yeah, there's a citrine egg that I remember many years ago getting my hands on, and we had this a lot of crystal collectors in the area, and we had a guy coming through who had just museum specimens that he had in a warehouse, and he was wanting to do like a consignment kind of deal with our shop. And that was our thing. So we're like, okay, yeah, come bring them in. It's beautiful pieces, like sculpted for art, like just insane, amazing things. And there was a citrine egg that I'll never forget. And I had a friend who was obsessed with it too, and like sat with it and was like, "This is mine," But it was just one of those like beautiful, and there was a star flash in the middle of it. It was just amazing. Anyway, yeah, I'll always regret that. It'll be my dream egg that I never get to have and play with. Yeah. Okay, so Tucson was good. You had a good time. You learned things. What was the worst part about going to Tucson this year?
I mean, apart from not being able to buy a $25,000 rhodonite, like that was heartbreaking. Getting to hold this thing that I know is never going to come home with me.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a marathon. If you want to see lots, it's easy to get burned out. I was there with friends who were shopping for businesses, and I'm a free agent. So I was there to spectate, and I love my friends and enjoyed getting all that time. But there's like, I only had so much bandwidth for looking at polished towers and tumbled stones and palm stones and little animal carvings, because those are the things that drive especially metaphysical retail when it comes to minerals. They're not the kinds of things I aim for in my collection. So there's so much of that on the market that if you're looking for weird stuff like I am, and you don't want fine mineral prices, you really have to hunt for it. So that was probably the challenge, that and time management, because you can't see it all. It's not possible. So how much are you going to budget for? And I think if you go to Tucson, especially if you're from outside the region, you got to have at least one day to see nature, one day to go out either into the mountains, or we spent a day where we drove out into Benson and saw Karchner Caverns, which is incredible. It's a still living, breathing cave. It's a live ecosystem. The stalactites and other speleothems are still actively being formed. We could hear the drips of water as they're growing. So you've got to make sure that you also budget time for that. So I got real burnt out on the kind of metaphysical tchotchkes. And then we spent a day not in Tucson when we came back, and I got to do fine minerals. It was wonderful.
Oh, I miss it. I'll go back. We'll do it. I was telling Chaz, because he was my buddy, we'd drive down and do the horrible trip there. It wasn't horrible, it was just long. And driving through the Mojave is a little scary, but I did have some really, really cool experiences driving through the Mojave in the middle of the night under a full moon when there's like no traffic and nobody on the road. And it was just like lit up. And I'm driving, it's like 3 a.m. The moon is just huge and full and luscious, and we're driving through the desert and not a soul in sight. And I you get kind of in that like liminal kind of space a little bit, right? As you're driving. And I remember looking over, and I just saw this, like what looked like this giant creature just walking very like a labyrinthian kind of dark crystal kind of creature, right? Like weird, just weird looking thing, just huge, like a kaiju, right? Just walking slowly in the desert. And I just was like, when at the corner of my eye, I look over, and it, wasn't really there, but it was one of those weird things, and you could feel like, so something big is here. Anyway, I stop the van, pull off on the side of the road, and I look over, and it was just, it felt like from a weird psychic place. Like it was like, this field is loaded with ancient desert spirits. Like it was just this like amazing, like beautiful, like I was watching whales, and that it's trippy stuff. So I remember having this like really profound spiritual experience where I didn't know what I was seeing, but I felt and experienced like this really intense stuff. My partner even was like, "Oh, there's something going on over there." So, and that's not his thing. So anyway, it was cool. I miss those trips. They're good trips, and I want to go back. So I'm this year I'm living vicariously through you, and I mean, he was sending me photos, which I appreciated, Nicholas, but I do demand more. I demand more. I want more. I miss Tucson, and I'm a little jelly that you got to go.
Well, be prepared, because I took more pictures than I have shared with anyone yet. I made Steven sit down and look at most of them with me.
Poor Steven.
He's a good sport.
Yeah.
And I saw some things, especially on Fine Mineral Day, that That's when I sent you the most photos, because that's when I found
Yeah.
that beautiful erythrites to share with you, because I know you love that cobalt ore.
Yeah. Oh, erythrite. See, you pronounce it the right way. I always say ethereite. It's ethereite because it just sounds better to say ethereite, even though you're absolutely right. That is not how you spell ethereal. Anyway, in my head, that's the way I'm going to pronounce it, as ethereite, because it sounds better. Hey, Nicholas,
Yes.
do you think I think we should maybe talk about the stone of the day.
Let's do it.
Right, I'm excited, everybody. So we're gonna have well, we're gonna talk about something, a very fun stone. I think it's an undervalued stone. However, I think the best thing about it is its name. So let's talk about Arfvedsonite. Nicholas, tell us something cool and sciencey.
Well, let's start with the science of it. So this is a sodium amphibole mineral. It's got kind of a complicated composition, so I'm not going to just spit it out off the top of my head. But most of the pieces that we see, like the one that's polished here in this photograph, are these kind of matted or felted fibrous formations that are produced through metamorphic processes where, you know, rocks kind of crash into each other, or through contact metamorphism by being exposed to great heat and or pressure, they transform. And so we get these beautiful, like, fibrous iridescent structures that are revealed in polishing. It's a monoclinic mineral. What you sometimes find really well formed prismatic crystals in a handful of locations around the world. I have a couple that I was desperately trying to find, but I hid them from myself. I put them in a safe place, so they have disappeared. But it's got this mouthful of a name, Arfvedsonite, because it's named for a Swedish chemist whose last name was Arfvedson. Um, so it's named in his honor. And this is a rock that I really, really love working with. It's one that I have featured in one of the projects that I'm writing currently. And I think of it as a stone for the dark night of the soul, helping us with like navigating feelings of despair, overcoming fear, promoting a sense of safety through protection. It could be really good for eliminating guilt, for reconciliation, for having grace through all kinds of transition or transformation, itself being an ingredient in metamorphic rock, something that has literally been subjected to great heat, great pressure, has been broken down and put itself back together in a way even more radiant and luminous. It helps us do the same thing. And probably around like maybe March, April of 2020, I started to get a really strong call to work with this stone through the social, political, medical uncertainty of the time. And it's one that I like deepened my appreciation for in that time frame.
I just realized I had taken myself off the screen. I'm here again. That's awesome. So what would you prescribe it for? Like, let's just say somebody walked in off the side of the road and they were like, any list of problems, anything that could go on. Like, what would you be like? What would be the things that they would say that would make you go, oh, you need this done?
One of the overwhelming things that I associate with this is a sense of being trapped by your circumstances, a feeling of like pervasive uncertainty, fear, foreboding, whether or not you can attribute that to an identifiable cause or not. The other thing is because it's an amphibole mineral, and there are other amphiboles our viewers might be familiar with. Jade, like nephrite, is composed of amphibole minerals, actinolite, riebeckite, crucidolite, like the stuff you find inside tiger's eye, and tons of others. Amphiboles have this ability to reach deep into the past. They kind of think of that fibrous structures almost like roots that go deep to the bottom of things, to the foundation of something. So we could use it to dislodge beliefs that we've inherited from our family, things that maybe stem from a past life, if that's your jam. We could use it for revealing repressed memories from this life, and for even just kind of understanding how we got to where we are, because, you know, this present moment is built upon an accretion of past events. And if we understand how we got here, then we can heal a little bit better moving forward.
I like that. I like that. See, I just would prescribe it for people who were like trying to get over their ex-boyfriends, but I mean, hey, it works. It's the same kind of thing. So, all right, it is now time to go through crystal prescriptions. Nicholas, you have exactly. Next time I'm going to try to have a timer up, but I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I'm going to go through 10 varying different things, and your job is going to be to prescribe a crystal for those things. And I promise you, it's all over the boards. There's going to be all kinds of different things. You've got 10, and we're going to put a minute on the clock, and we're going to start now. All right. Hangovers.
Oh, amethyst.
Gassy.
Citrine.
Okay. Your clingy ex-boyfriend wants to come back.
Something sharp, like obsidian.
Okay. The IRS wants to audit you.
Maybe some Arfvedsonite.
Maybe some Arfvedsonite, for sure. The cat isn't using the litter box.
Oh, maybe black onyx for like training and behavior change.
Okay. Bunions.
Something Piscean, something like aquamarine, because Pisces rules the feet in medical astrology.
I like that. Your mechanic wants to charge too much.
Jade and leopard skin jasper. The leopard skin jasper for the charisma, and jade for some good luck here.
I like that. All right, 3 more. There's 2. You're having too much self-love, if you get my drift.
Black onyx for some restraint, perhaps.
Okay, I like that. You're a misogynist.
Oh, I mean, just hit yourself with a rock.
All right, and last one is kleptomania.
I'm gonna go with amethyst on this one again because it's a good one for breaking bad habits.
Nice. Okay. We went a couple of seconds over, but it was worth it. I love that. Okay. We're going to do that again next time. So when you come to the live show next time, I will prompt you and you can add your own things that you'd like us to give you a prescription for. But I think that just about does it for today, Nicholas. This was a really fun jump into our new little adventure here. I know that we're going to have links and everything below, but just real quick, where do you send people if they want more you?
Well, nowadays you can find most of the stuff concentrated on my website, which is theluminous.pearl.com. I'm also the Luminous Pearl on most social media like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So those would be great places to check me out. How about you, Devin?
I'm just modernwitch.com. You can just go to modernwitch.com. You can also check out other things on this YouTube channel. And there's links and descriptions and all the kind of fun stuff. But we'll definitely be back in a couple of weeks with another episode of Getting Stoned. And maybe, we're definitely going to we're shooting for once a month to do this particular show. And if people like it, we'll do more, but definitely once a month for now. So we will definitely be back. Definitely. And it'll be a good time. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Check out modernwitch.com, luminouspearl.com, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks in your face doing crystal things, getting stoned, and having a fantastic time. Thank you, everybody.